Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of True Believers here on the Fandom Podcast Network as we continue our witchy ways around the Fandom Podcast Network with our coverage of Agatha All Along, the latest, of course, MCU show on Disney Plus, which has been turning in some strong performances so far. And we are here to cover everything about this episode, which is episode four of Agatha All Along, and it's If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. And I'm here to actually teach a couple of wonderful people a little bit about Agatha and keep them up to speed. Of course, one is, you know, he kind of popped up out of the ground, made a few really creepy moves and stuff like that, and like just kind of joined our coven. But he is the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
What's going on, buddy? Good to be back. So this is October officially.
Yeah.
And October is one of my favorite months because, Halloween and everything. However, I'm not going to be here in the States for Halloween. I'm going to be in Australia because I'm going to be heading to Australia next week for a full month. And so I may not be able to come in when I want to help out, to co-host here as much as I would like to. But we have another co-host. We'll get to that in a second. But I did want to celebrate Halloween a little bit, Kyle, because I am wearing my Werewolf by Night t-shirt. Check that out. Look at that.
Very nice.
And I just want to say I got that at Spencer's Gifts for like less than $10.
There you go. Werewolf by Night, one of my all-time favorite Marvel Disney Plus.
We did cover that as a special last year, didn't we? I think
2 years ago now. I think we covered it originally because the first year it just came out in black and white. Then they put it out on color for the second year. And so this is the third. It's been 3 years since it came out. So
yeah, that was a good one shot. I need more of that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they need more of those things. Kevin, do you have your spell book with you?
Is this a spell book? Does this do stuff? This blue?
I'll take
cube?
that over what you normally carry around as your spell book that's covered by human flesh.
Oh, that one's over there. That Book of the Dead. Yeah. No, this is that blue cube that does stuff.
Yeah. Okay. A little magical fingers here. I need a new guest host. I got to keep the coven full. Oh wait. I think if I just go Thundercats ho,
boo,
I get a cat.
Wait, ho. That's it.
Yes, it is Cat Ceder. Cat, welcome to our True Believers once again and our coverage of Agatha All Along. And rumor has it you might be filling in a little bit while Mr. Reitzel is in a land down under following.
I figured if somebody was going to do it, it had to be someone that at least as knowledgeable as you are in the Marvel Universe. And, well, I figured I'd do it since Kevin's not as knowledgeable as I am.
What's he trying to say, Kyle?
Well, no, I know exactly what he's trying to say, and it's kind of loosely based off of Don Cheadle and Ocean's 11. It'll be good to work with proper comic villains.
Yeah. And Kevin, for you, Kev, I have my own little cosmic cube, but mine's a little smaller version. It's more portable.
What's that one?
Apparently, you're not a Marvel fan because it came from Secret Empire, the comics.
Okay. Well, it's hard to see with the light there, but that's cool. It's not as big.
I have my cosmic cube as well. More portable, fits in my pocket, easier to use.
Yep. So, guys, this is the True Believer show here on the Fandom Podcast Network, and we are covering everything that is Agatha All Along, including the most recent episode here. If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. So, I'm going to. Kat and I are here to try to teach Kevin. It might not be easy, but we're going to do it. We got to get him up to speed on his witchiness before he goes to a land down under. Got to teach him a few new spells, protect him from giant spiders. But we are going to have spoiler alerts everywhere because we are going to be talking about everything that happened in episode 4 of Agatha All Along. And you know what? It's going to be a fun ride. But
can I push it? Here we go.
Are you going to have withdrawal symptoms while you're in Australia because you can't push buttons?
I know. I like to push the buttons.
He'll have other buttons you can push.
If it's allowed. But you know what, two guys, we've got some other things that have been happening around the Fandom Podcast Network. And on the Marvel side, the digital release dropped just the other day, October 1st, Deadpool and Wolverine. And if you want to go back and get our initial reactions to Deadpool and Wolverine, find our True Believer show where we had a whole cavalcade of alternate universe characters bring in their thoughts on Deadpool.
I like how you said cavalcade.
And ladies and gentlemen, Kevin was the Chris Evans of that episode, so you know what happened to him.
Hang on. Yeah, but make sure you go back and check out our spoiler reaction show. It's up on the network still. Kat was on there as well. We had a great time talking about it. So, yeah, I was just telling Kat before we started recording, it was like tempting to, I mean, if you look at the digital, to purchase it digitally, it's $30. To rent it for a month, it's like $24.99. And it's tempting because I'd like to have a downloaded copy to take with me to Australia, maybe watch on the flight on the way back or whatever. But it's like I'm also going to buy the physical copy, which usually comes with the digital code. So I'm in a quandary of what to do. I'm like tempted, but I'm going to wait. But I did want to say, though, you have not seen the last of Deadpool and Wolverine on the Fandom Podcast Network this year. So stay tuned.
Yep. And we are here. Obviously, we are all about Agatha all along. But before we go forward into the new episode, since we have Kat here, Kat, I want to get your thoughts on what you've enjoyed from Agatha all along so far.
You know, I've liked Agatha since she first came out in the comics. I always thought she was a very interesting character for what she was very elusive to through her entire run. And then the big reveal back in West Coast Avengers, what happened with her and, you know, Wanda's kids and the whole tie-in with Mephisto and all that. I've been a fan of it, and when I saw her in the WandaVision, loved her character. She was really great, and then now she's got her own show, and it's just, I didn't think it would be as good because it's just her and nothing else to really support her, but they're doing a great job. I'm really enjoying it. I loved this episode, her singing.
So let me ask you this then: is it a combination of, is it Agatha, or is it the combination of Catherine Hahn playing Agatha and how Catherine Hahn is playing Agatha? Because it is a very different version than what we were used to in the comic books.
Oh yeah, no. Well, it depends on what part of the comics we're talking. Like the old stuff, like while I was talking West Coast Avengers, or the re-release where she's younger now and she's been revamped to look a lot better in the comics. But no, it's definitely the actress. She's excuse me, what was that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But so everything, so you're definitely enjoying what they've done with Agatha so far.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then let's talk about some other happenings here too in the MCU, Kat, because I want to ask you. Kevin and I talked about last week. The Thunderbolts trailer dropped, and I am extremely excited for Thunderbolts. I have got feelings for Thunderbolts like I did when the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was announced and they dropped the first trailer. I really think you're bringing in the misfit toys again of the MCU, and I think it could have that kind of wackiness and fun in a different way, but still have that same feeling that Guardians did. What are your thinkings on that Thunderbolts trailer?
Loved the trailer. I loved the new look for Ghost. She was spot on. I mean, she was amazing. I'm still upset about Taskmaster. I've talked to Kevin about this already. The fact that it's, you know, hopefully they'll change it, not make it some cybernetic destruction of what Taskmaster should be. So sad. Loved the Misfits, like you said. Loved the lines of dialogue about, is that Bucky? Oh, this isn't good. But my favorite thing of all is the little snippet spoiler of Bob. And I'm hoping that that's going to be Robert Reynolds. For those of you who don't know who that is, he is, quote unquote, Superman in the Marvel Universe. Supposedly but he's got a psychotic problem that makes him his own worst enemy, creating the Void, which is the bad guy of him. But I'm hoping that's Bob Reynolds. That'd be awesome if that's really him.
I can confirm for you, it is Bob Reynolds.
It is. Oh, so cool, so cool, so cool.
So I want to ask you then, since we are talking about Bob Reynolds, because I gave Kevin a little education about the Sentry last week. Do you know how the Sentry got created, where it originally came from?
Well, when they first showed him, I wasn't sure, but then they mentioned him. He was in Fantastic Four, number 9 or something like that. There was like a.
No. I get to educate Kevin.
Sure. Go for it.
Kat, by the way, I just want to let you know, Kyle's really enjoying this right now. He's on his marble high horse.
I can see.
We'll let him rock on it right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me rock up. Several years ago, when Wizard Magazine still existed, you know how every year they do an April Fool's issue. Kat?
Yeah.
The Century was an April Fool's story, and Marvel took it and ran with it. The whole idea of the Century was that they found this long lost comic that the Century was in that never actually got published, and then they tied him into the Fantastic Four and everything like that. Obscure character. Marvel took it and ran with it and made it a real thing.
Is the Thunderbolts basically the MCU version of the DC Suicide Squad?
In a way, I think that's a fair comparison.
Yes,
it's evolved into different. The Thunderbolts, unlike the Suicide Squad, which has always been about these villains that have been controlled doing their thing, the Thunderbolts has evolved in a bunch of different directions throughout the comics. It looks like they're kind of playing a little bit of the Suicide Squad kind of feel to it, but I think they've got a few different angles they're going to be working with it as well. And throwing in the Century is going to just be chaos. So
gotcha.
But I am excited. I'm glad to hear you're excited about it, Kat. I think we're going to get a little bit of Thunderbolts link to Captain America Brave New World as well because of who is in that movie. So it's going to be fun to see. But Kevin, is the Tesseract glowing?
It is. Yep. We need to review the phases real quick.
Yeah, of course, this is the True Believers podcast, so we don't do segments. We do phases because that's what the MCU is all about, is phases. And, we do have our Tesseract to kind of initiate those phases. Kevin, what have I told you about kissing the Tesseract?
Sorry.
But with that, I need to bleed a little energy off of it. Kevin, cover up anything that might be important to you that you might need soon. Okay, let's shift into phase one. Okay, guys, it is time to talk Agatha All Along, episode 4. Kevin, would you be so kind as to give us a plot description to "If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You"?
First, I would like to remind our listeners and viewers the phases that we are going to do in this episode. Phase 1 will be the plot description, first reactions, and cast comments. Phase 2 is the trivia and Easter eggs segment. Phase 3 is plot analysis, and it ties to the MCU and comics and any review for articles. And of course, we will phase out with Phase 4 with our final thoughts, predictions maybe for the next episode, and close things out. So there we go. Well, of course, we start with here, Phase 1, plot description. And again, spoiler alert for Agatha All Along, episode 4, If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. After burying Sharon, the Coven is forced to summon a replacement Green Witch, who turns out to be Rio, much to Agatha's annoyance. The Coven encounter a house with a 1970s aesthetic that gives Alice grief. Upon entering, they find it is a recording studio tied to Alice's mother, Lorna Wu. Just as Rio playfully suggests to Agatha that they betray the others, which is overheard by everyone, the teen accidentally plays a record backwards. You never play a record backwards, guys. Come on. It summons a demon that is part of the curse of Alice's family. In order to fight back, the group plays Lorna's version of the ballad, and Alice is able to successfully kill the demon. Teen is revealed to be severely wounded, and the Coven escape the house and tend to him, saving his life. Lilia, Alice, and Jen bond with each other while Rio implies the history between herself and Agatha. Agatha checks on the teen, who asks what happens to her son, but she ignores the question. Later, Rio tells Agatha that the teen is not her son.
Okay, gentlemen, before we go any further, just initial reactions to this episode. Kat, you are our returning guest, so give us your initial reactions to this episode. Just what you first thoughts that came to mind as soon as it ended.
Aside from the attempted jump scares, I thought this was probably the best episode of the 4 so far.
Interesting, Mr. Reitzel.
Yeah, I was digging it. I love the 70s look to it. It was reminding me of when I was a kid and visiting people's houses. They have those the shag carpet and just everything else. And remember those sunken like living rooms you'd walk down and sit in. Remember those type of things? And I love that you got a 70s music feel to it, and the fact that they sang the witch's song and just totally got into it. It was really cool.
They all looked hot.
Yeah, I love the 70s outfits, definitely. Yeah, good call,
I will say Catherine and Aubrey especially wore the 70s outfits well.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, guys. With that, because of our initial reactions, and we've talked about those, but we got a lot of interesting trivia for this. So, Kevin, test rack ready?
Oh, okay. Are we doing cast comments first, though? I mean,
sure. Yeah, we can.
Yeah. I just wanted to, because that's part of the segment here. I wanted to make sure that we get into that because we get Aubrey Plaza, I guess, introduced. I mean, we got her in the first episode, obviously, with the cool, detective noir start of the film that we got, but now we got her resurrected as a demon, sort of demon-looking character coming out, joining the road. I'm a fan of Aubrey Plaza, Delaware born, probably the most famous Delaware person that we know outside of maybe Biden. And I'm a huge fan of hers, and I love seeing her kind of come in and mix and mingle. Your thoughts on the cast, guys?
Kat?
Like I said, I'm not a name guy, so I don't know names except for the main Agatha. So I don't know who is who. Although, and I apologize, I've never been a name person, but I'm loving the cast. The people they picked are perfect. Even the original Green Witch, which was the mom from that 70s show, she was just too funny for her show.
Deborah Jo Rupp. Yes,
that was it. I remember that name only because I remember Rupp.
Or we just called her Mrs. Foreman.
Fair enough. But I love the cast. Everyone's just keen on what they're doing. The Asian, the one that was all about her episode this week.
Actress is Ali On.
Ali what?
Ali On.
Han?
A-H-N. A-H-N.
On. Yeah, I like her a lot. She was very, she made me believe that she was very scared, and she seemed like she was a very good actress for when she was being frightened by the visage of her mom, and then when she saw the demon, when it appeared, she could see it, So, yeah, the cast is doing a great job. They all looked really good. The 70s motifs were great for them, and yeah, just really enjoying them. Again, not being a follower of names and stuff like that, so I apologize.
No, that's fine. Not everybody is a name person. I will be talking more about Aubrey Plaza in a little bit because I got some things I want to bring up when we talk about connections to comics and things like that. But Kevin, you had something else you wanted to add real quick?
I want to give a shout out to the actress stuntwoman who played the demon in this. Very demonic looking actress by the name of Jade Kwan, and she's done stunt works. She's done stunt works for Transformers Last Night, The Hunger Games, The Last Airbender. I just thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, shout out to Jade.
She did a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. With that, I do have some very interesting trivia from this episode. I dug up some interesting things and the connections to WandaVision.
Phase 2, here we go! Yay!
Run, Kevin, put the helmet on. Okay, guys, it's time for some Marvel trivia and Easter eggs, and I pulled up some fun ones here, so we can see how you guys work with me and see what you might recognize and what you might not recognize. So, first up, when Rio rises out of the ground after arriving on the Witch's Road, the way she appears is similar to when Wanda emerged to be seen from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Both included their bodies contorting and bones cracking into place. It just came from a chiropractic appointment. That's all I'm saying. Your thoughts on this, guys? Did you catch that connection?
Sorry, Kyle, your sound's breaking up for me. I was having trouble getting that. I'm just gonna repeat that if that's okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, did you catch that connection too?
I didn't hear what it was, but I'm gonna read the notes again real quick if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
So it says, when Rio rises out of the ground after arriving on the Witch's Road, the way she appears is similar when Wanda emerges in a scene from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Both included their bodies contorting the bones and cracking into place. I didn't catch that because I have not rewatched that movie because I'm not a big fan of that movie. We've had issues with that. Kat, did you catch that at all?
I didn't catch it. I remember some bone cracking, but not the way you recommended. I was thinking more from, a zombie movie or something like that. The way the bones crack and, pop and adjust.
Yeah. I thought it was a cool effect, though, especially to make an appearance. And then she's like, hey, here you're having a party.
Hey, a party is not a party until somebody comes up out of the ground. That's all I'm saying. So next piece of trivia here, guys, is a kind of look back, too, because when Rio first starts walking down the Witch's Road, she skips, which is likely a nod to the Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy skips down the Yellow Brick Road.
I did kind of get that feeling when I was watching it because the way they have the Witch's Road, it automatically reminded me of the Wizard of Oz. What about you, Kat?
I haven't watched The Wizard of Oz in a long time. So, no, I totally missed that. Although I did like the fact that she was sort of like, where am I? Very Disney sing-song like.
Give me Goth Aubrey any day. I'll just say that right now.
There you go. Goth. Do we want to combine her with Hela for you, Kevin?
Ooh.
Oh, now you're talking. That's a Hall of Famer right there. There's a Hall of Famer.
She could play a young Hela.
Okay, guys. Well, next up, we have got something that I found very interesting on a little bit of a technical thing. Whenever the Coven enters a new trial, the show's aspect ratio changes. WandaVision also used this trick to show when we were inside Wanda's fantasy of Westview versus the real world. Did you guys catch this when you were watching this? Or is this something like, oh, wow, now I realize?
I did on a rewatch, and I was remembering when Wanda did that, and I thought that was a really cool touch to give you the feeling that you're watching that era of television.
Yeah, I think it's a cool little visual trick that they pull.
I only noticed it that because the last time they showed it, it was different. I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is supposed to be something that's important. Maybe it's supposed to signify the episode or who the episode's going to be about, like who they're going to encounter. Like this one being about the Asian actress. Again, I forgot her name already.
That's okay. But I do have another fun, interesting piece of trivia here too. When Rio transformed into her 70s outfit, you can see the flowers she offered up to Agatha upon arriving on the Witch's Road in her hair. So they're having.
I love these little touches. This is cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of little touches, Kevin, I think this is one you will especially appreciate. While walking through the recording studio, you can see a poster for a Fleetwood Mac concert on May 7th, 1977 at Oakland Stadium. This was a real concert they played on their Rumors tour.
Yeah, Oakland Arena, of course, more famous for the A's and, of course, the Raiders back in the day. And in this 77, this was like after their Super Bowl run. This was interesting because this was a popular venue for concerts to play. And there was a famous concert called Day on the Green there that a lot of metal concerts would play there. Metallica's played there. Of course, Metallica is from the Bay Area. But it was a very popular – the Oakland Coliseum was a very popular concert venue. You name it, those bands have played there, including the Who, Black Sabbath, all those bands. That was a big venue. If you were playing Oakland Stadium, that was a big deal.
Yeah. And again, as we continue on, the connections to WandaVision, which I think they've done brilliantly in this show, in the aspect of little things, it's not hit you over the head things. But when Rio asked Agatha why she brought Tina along, she says many hands, which is something she also said to WandaVision in episode 1 while helping Wanda in the kitchen. I just love these little tie-ins.
Yeah.
Makes you, just enough to keep you going, what's the connection? There's besides the obvious, there's more here than what meets the eye.
I don't know if they're trying to get you to watch WandaVision again, but they're definitely paying good tribute to it. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And speaking of WandaVision, when Alice puts the pieces of the record together, you can see the second track is called Red Haired Woman. I think it's a little nod to Wanda Maximoff, a.k.a. the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah.
And then
That's a
next
nice
up,
nod
and,
there.
I think this is actually an interesting thing. Agatha tells Alice that the Ballad of the Witch's Road is a protection spell her mom created. Now, this could be a bit of a reach, but there still was a notable scene in WandaVision episode 3 where Wanda sings a Slovakian lullaby to Billy and Tommy. Maybe that was a protection spell too, and maybe that's where the sigil that Teen has comes from if he is Billy, aka Wiccan.
The Sokovian lullaby that she sings that was done in Sokovian language, right? That was
correct.
Because okay, interesting. Yeah, I forgot about that part.
So, yeah, the interesting things being brought up, and here's another one. Now, there is a theory that Rio, who is the Green Witch, is actually deaf, and Kevin, we talked about this a little bit last week, which becomes pretty clear in this episode. For starters, she references to Agatha getting her bodies after Agatha killed witches. Then when Teen is seriously injured, Agatha looks at Rio and pleads, "Don't." And it kind of makes you wonder, little pieces here. Could Rio be deaf? This is.
What do you think on that, Kat? What do you think on that, Kat? We were speculating that
I'm
could be her character.
behind that theory because the way that she responded, the way she moved when she saw the boy dying, and then when Agatha said "don't," the only thing that came to my mind was, well, she's not a vampire because that would be kind of silly because we haven't seen Dracula yet. So the only thing that popped in my mind is, oh yeah, she's got to be the embodiment of death, going to claim the soul of the boy who was going to die. But I think it was more because Agatha thinks that it might have been her son when she finds out it's not. So it's like, I think she's still the embodiment of death.
Interesting.
Well, I think when we get into our next phase here, we're going to talk about something that I think even enforces that even more. Which, speaking of which, Kevin, I'm getting a little static on my earpiece here. Is the Tesseract acting up again?
It always is. It's rumbling.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
rumbling.
I'm going to bleed off a little more energy. Gentlemen, it's time to phase 3 to begin, where we're going to talk a little bit about the plot analysis and also some of the ties to the MCU. Kevin, our good friends over at Den of Geek put up an article. Brianna Irons has been reviewing Agatha All Along. They've been loving it over at Den of Geek. The 4th episode of Agatha All Along is the best of the series thus far, according to her. So I highlighted a few things out of here that I want to bring up as some plot points. Before the witches continue down the road, they do give Sharon a proper burial as soon as they can, despite Agatha Catherine's hound's insistence that they continue down the road as fast as possible. The rest of the coven argues that they need to find another green witch to continue on, as the ballad specifically says they must traverse the road with Coven True. Not Coven 2, Agatha. Coven True. So the witches gather to summon another green witch to the road, who else comes crawling out of the earth like a hot yet creepy little gremlin, but Rhea Vidal, of course, Aubrey Plaza. After the Salem 7 appearance in the season premiere, this is truly one of the scariest moments of the show so far, both for us and for Agatha, it seems. Once she's done snapping her joints back into place, Rio coyly gives Abraca a flower despite the fact that she tried to murder her the last time they saw each other. Yeah, well, relationships can be complicated.
I kind of got a feeling of the Ring vibes with the creepy girl coming out of the well and the TV screen out of that one as well.
Yeah, there's some interesting things there. We later on get into a great scene between Rio and Agatha where we finally get some insight into their relationship. Rio is impatient, seemingly waiting for Agatha to inevitably betray the coven so she can collect their bodies for something, but also wanting to mix a little work and play. Agatha broadcasts her conversation to the rest of the coven, even though the coven through the recording booth, likely so she can feign innocence. So now we're starting to get that there's a little bit more to this relationship between Rio and Agatha, maybe even something a little romantic, perhaps, Kevin.
Yeah, definitely we're getting a little,
steamy
spark between them. But I did want to ask Kat a question that I asked you last week, Kyle. And I thought that after what you just said made me think of it. Kat, they're painting Agatha as the villain that we kind of saw or alluded to in WandaVision. The way that she's acting, her ulterior motives, she's forced to get this coven together to basically serve things that she wants to get out of it. But then are you getting kind of feeling that they're doing that on purpose, Kat? And then maybe she's going to become a good witch or not as bad as she starts out to be? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm expecting her to betray them, and then after she's betraying them, she'll realize that, wait, she actually might need them as something later on in life, friends perhaps, because she doesn't really have very many. And then she'll end up betraying what we believe to be death, and then keeping them and protecting them, and then forming a real coven with them, although minus an actual green witch. Maybe we'll have somebody pop in at the end of episode 7, 8, whatever it is, and someone will help out unbeknownst to us, and she'll turn on Death. Because if you read comics, Agatha and Death have had issues.
Yeah. But Kat, I want to bring up a point here tied into Kevin's question, because usually when we see Death appear in the MCU, she's got a lover, whether it's Thanos, somebody else, Deadpool for a while. They're definitely indicating that Rio and Agatha have had a little bit more than just an adversarial relationship. They've had maybe some kind of relationship, which kind of leads me to believe that maybe she is more Lady Death, and that's a relationship that Agatha had, because it usually doesn't go well for Death and her lovers.
Nope, they've all died or been banished.
Yeah, it's not a healthy. It's a very toxic relationship.
Yeah,
with Death,
probably the worst one you could have.
Yeah, exactly.
You only have two options: never dying, or
yeah, it don't end well usually. Breakups are bad. But continuing on, later we see that Teen is injured, and they do heal him thanks to the help of Jennifer Kale. But once Teen awakens, he asks Agatha if she put the sigil on him, to which Agatha tells him no, but that she can't be sure if she's the one who put it on him or not, because sigils also work on the witch who cast it. Sigils can't be lifted and are only destroyed when they are no longer needed. Their surprisingly sweet and tender moment is cut short when the teen asks Agatha about her son, to which Agatha replies by walking off. Later, Agatha joins the other witches as they talk about their scars before stealing a longing glance at Rio and telling the others she's going to go stretch her legs. Rio follows, and the two nearly kiss before Rio kind of ruins the moment by telling Agatha that Teen isn't her son. This moment, the whole episode, is dripping with the tension of ex-lovers who can't stand each other, but also can't seem to stay away from each other either. A dynamic that Aubrey Plaza and Catherine Hahn play to perfection, and that they do, guys. The chemistry between them in this episode is dynamic. Hot, yeah. A lot of different things. Kevin, what were you picking up from those?
Yeah, definitely a history there. Definitely some sexual tension, and that you feel that Rio obviously knows some dark secrets about what's going on here. Because I think reluctantly she joins the crew against Agatha's wishes, but the Rio character, though, I'm trying to figure out what she is trying to get out of this. I think they all need to be together to do this, which is road trial, so to speak. And and so we're slowly getting these pieces of the puzzle laid in front of us.
Kat, I'm thinking that if Rio is perhaps Lady Death, what she's after is Agatha herself.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe a version of the Darkhold.
That could be too. The Darkhold has been a part of this series already, so it could be.
Well, the Darkhold has been a part of Agatha's since her debut.
Yeah.
So the other witch too calls at that end there, stops Rio and says, "Don't forget it. I haven't forgotten what you said in the recording studio." And so there's a lot of suspicious among certain people in this too. So, but I did got to give it to Rio. Definitely was fun watching her play drums.
Everyone has a bone to pick with her.
Yeah.
Speaking of everybody,
joke there, but
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that. Bone to pick.
One last thing I picked up on too, and I think this is very important, is that it seems though each episode is dealing with one of the witches dealing with their own demons per se. I mean, quite literally in this episode. I really felt like the prior episode was kind of Jennifer Kale dealing with her demons and coming, dealing with her issues of being bound. This episode was more about Wu.
Yeah.
In this case, dealing with that, and they're starting to drop hints of the other members of our coven. One, of course, our fortune teller is speaking from who knows when with some of these conversations. Obviously, there's another. It's almost like past and future versions of her taking over her body at points. It seems like, and of course, then Agatha's own demons as well, plus everything with Teen. What are you enjoying the fact that they're kind of giving each of these members of the coven through the trial? It's something that they've been through each individually that the others have to help them overcome, Kevin.
Yeah, because you're learning more about the character, but also too questioning Agatha's. When Agatha gets to learn them, then her selfish reasons going forward might surpass, and then they'll become more of a crew and work together in a family, a strange family. If you start to learn about other people's demons and what they've gone through, it makes them sympathetic. And if you're hungry for power, but you realize that you need them in the long run, then maybe you start to feel for them, and you're starting to see a little bit of that from Agatha in this episode.
Yeah, Cap, what about you? Are you enjoying how they're kind of laying out this map right now?
100%. That's what I was saying, is that each episode seems to be about each of the witches, and Agatha's learning it. And that's why I said that in the end, Agatha will turn on them, but then realize, oh wait, I need them. And then she'll turn on Death, as far as we know. And then they'll actually form a real coven and be a set of witches minus the Green Witch, and then turn on Death and banish her back to wherever Death likes to reside. Yeah. That's my whole thought on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But two guys, I do want to talk about some of the ties to the comics as well, because we have a couple this week that stand out, and one is one we've been talking about for a while, guys, and that is who Teen is. And Kat, I'm going to bring you in real quick on this conversation before I get to this point, because much of the internet speculation, much of the hints I've seen dropped, most people are believing that Teen could be actually one of Wanda's children, Billy Kaplan, who plays Wiccan. Who's Wiccan in the Young Avengers. We've already seen Marvel setting up a lot of elements of the Young Avengers throughout, especially the Disney Plus run of shows. We already know we have Kate Bishop, we have Cassie Lang, we have Patriot and Elijah, and who was introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier. That character was there. Now we're seeing Billy Kaplan come up. Are you on the Wiccan bandwagon here?
100%. He looks just like him too. If you look at the comics, the resemblance is almost spot on.
Yeah. So I want to, speaking of that, Agatha tells Teen that whoever casts a sigil on him won't likely know who he is either. Now, if we were running with the Billy Kaplan theory in the Avengers: The Children's Crusade comics, Wanda remarks on not being able to know who her son is, saying, "What kind of mother doesn't even recognize her own son?" So, yeah, it would make sense if Wanda was the one that put the sigil on Billy to protect him to the point where she doesn't even recognize him should she see him again, just because she loves her children that much and to protect them,
protect herself.
Yeah. So I'm finding this fascinating because as I was telling somebody the other day, if they get away from Teen being Wiccan, and I think it's one of the biggest curveballs Marvel has thrown yet, as far as kind of misleading the audience with clues they've dropped. And I'm curious to see how that's going to go over. But it's very interesting how they're playing this up. And again, I go back to, I still love how they're having these ties to Wanda Maximoff, even though she's not technically in this series. So it makes me wonder if we're going to have an Elizabeth Olsen cameo before this thing is all said and done.
If we do, we don't. You got to keep in mind, if we go from the comics, Agatha is part of Wanda since Wanda, once they started realizing who Wanda was later on in comics, they realized that she was trained by Agatha in some variation of the comics. And then she was a mentor to Wanda in some variation of the comics. And she helped her with her kids in some variation of the comics, depending on which version and variation of Agatha we're dealing with. So, they've been tied for as long as Wanda's been a character back in 1967.
Oh, yeah, you go back to the old Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries from the 80s, too. Yeah, that was a huge...
Exactly. Yeah, and
Page
again,
one.
when you go back to that, you go into West Coast Avengers. I think it was like number 17 when Mephisto shows up. You're like, oh, wait, what's going on here? What's this? And him trying to say that they're his kids. It's like, what?
Yeah, that John Byrne run, they did a lot of things on there. But speaking of other ties to the comics too, there's a point where Agatha mentions when they're talking about their scars, Agatha mentions the Daughters of Liberty. In the comics, the group was trained in magic by Agatha Harkness. Alongside Agatha, some of the members in the comics are Peggy Carter, Sharon Carter, Sue Storm, Spider-Woman, Misty Knight, Black Widow, and a few others as well. Now, in the show, she talks about them trying to take her out. In the comics, it's basically a bunch of heroes that Agatha brings together to fight other magical things. So I'm going to be curious to see if that was just a throwaway line or if it was something else, Kat.
It's a good possibility. I mean, that would be a very interesting way to start another TV show for them, introducing more female characters and having them fight against magical creatures, maybe even go into, alternate dimensional creatures like, say, Dormammu or, what's his name? Oh, man.
Well, Blackheart, Mephisto,
Yeah.
a lot of those type of characters.
Any of those
Kevin.
characters.
Was Misty Knight the police officer that was introduced in Luke Cage?
Yes.
Yes, she was.
Okay, I thought that name sounded familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, she has quite a history in the Marvel universe. If they ever bring her into the MCU proper, which it sounds like they might be doing, they could do a lot of different directions with her.
Question: you said that Peggy Carter and Sharon Carter were part of the Daughters of Liberty. Was Sharon Carter still the niece of Peggy Carter at this time?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah, they're opening up some interesting doors. Whether they go through them or not, I think it's a whole other story. I mean, this could have been a simple throwaway line to recognize that.
Were you at all impressed that I remembered Misty Knight from Luke Cage? Was that?
Yeah, I give you some credit, but Misty Knight was quite a memorable character from Luke Cage and Defenders and Daredevil and a lot of things. It's a great character. So, yeah, I give you some MCU props there, Kevin. Okay, guys,
I'll give you a point.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm going to bleed off just a little bit more Tesseract energy as we head to our final phase. I saw you playing with the Tesseract.
I thought it was Jello.
That too. But guys, we have been talking about the latest episode of Agatha All Along. If I can't reach you, let my song teach you. And we are going to kind of get into our final thoughts on the episode and maybe some predictions of what's to come. Kat, you're back here for the first time in a while. Give me some of your final thoughts and maybe some things you think we might see in the next episode or two.
Well, I'm going, since there's 5 episodes. Wait, 5 episodes?
Yeah, there's 9 episodes altogether.
So there's 5 episodes left, and there's 7 in the Coven. So my guess is they're going to do each episode from this point forward on the rest of the other witches, giving them each a little bit more history, so that if they happen to make an Agatha season 2, maybe dealing with other supernatural stuff, we'll know a little bit about each of the other characters going forward, instead of, oh, hey, that's just that Throwin character. Okay, cool. So that's my suggestion. They're going to do a little blurb, and then, of course, continue with the story with, if it is Death and Agatha, and the, triangle of love, magic, destroying the Coven and then saving the Coven kind of scenario for the next 5 episodes. That's my thought. And then, of course, the last episode, the big battle against Death.
Kevin, what about you? Any predictions for the next episode or two? Well, since you will be
Is it too
off
much?
on internet.
Sorry, I didn't. I
was just going to say, since you were going to be off on international witches roads.
Yeah, I'll be in Australia for a month, so hopefully I'll see if I can jump in if I can. But otherwise, I have to leave it to you guys. I think you're right. I think, as Kat alluded to, is that we'll probably see episodes focusing around each of the Coven and learning more about the rest on the way. But we're missing a great opportunity if they don't sing this witches song again in an 80s hair metal era style thing. That's what we really, really need. I love the 70s. It's great. But I don't see that happening. But man, I would love to see them all hair metaled out.
What was last week's episode? What era was that?
It was kind of like a Desperate Housewives.
So
yeah. So
not really going through time errors as much.
Yeah, I mean they did that with WandaVision, which I thought was great.
But I'm just wondering if that was the 90s, this is the 70s. Maybe we'll get an 80s. Maybe get a 50s.
Yeah, I don't know. I
wouldn't.
It'll be interesting to watch, though. I'll have to pay attention to that. I'll be watching it from afar and land down under, of course. But
and a day ahead of us.
Yeah. But I am looking forward. I'm paying attention to Agatha here, and as we learn about her past and what she had to do to get to where she is, and if and when that they will actually start to work together and become friends.
It's going to be interesting. Here's kind of my thoughts, at least for the next couple episodes. I think we have one more that focuses on the other witch of the coven that they haven't really dove into yet, which is our fortune teller. I think the next episode will be kind of focused on her and what she's going through. I'm suspecting episode 6 or 7, we're going to get the big reveals about Agatha, about her son, about her relationship with Rio, because I think 8 and 9 are kind of the climactic episodes that will really be dealing with the journey they've been on and what the ultimate goal is for that. So I think we're going to see that. I think we see Salem 7 probably in episode 6 is kind of my feeling that Salem 7 will be back in that episode.
Well, they have to.
Are they villains basically? Because they're showcasing them as that way.
Yeah. I'm going to go. Yeah, they're villain. They are villains.
They're not really villains. They're sort of like, hey, you messed up, and we're going to kill you now.
Are they coven cast off that kind of form their own force, or what's going on?
It's a little hard to say yet because we don't know what they're doing. A little like we talked about in episode 1, Kevin. They're doing a little bit of a different interpretation of Salem 7.
Yeah.
And so it's the door is kind of open to which direction they're going to go in.
And there's also been different versions of them in comics as well. They're sort of like the time police. Like, they go back in time when something is wrong in an era or a version. The Salem 7, when a witch messes up and does something.
So what you're saying is that they're time cops.
No. Really. They're witch cops. They're witch cops. But depending on what iteration of Salem 7 are, not only the witch cops, they're Agatha's grandchildren.
So that's possible too.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen? We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, but it's going to be a fun ride. That is for certain, of course. And this has been MCU's True Believers podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, talking about everything that is Agatha all along. It's always been so much fun to talk about this fun little coven that's been put together, and who knows what kind of trouble they're going to get into. But speaking of trouble, guys, these two are kind of giving me the eyeball. I think I better wrap things up because it might not end well if I let them look at me too long. And really, I shouldn't leave them by themselves. Bad things have happened. They need proper supervision. That's all I'm saying.
On it.
Well, Kat, you volunteer. We'll see you next time when I read about your chapter in the Darkhold.
I don't think I'm in that issue.
Yeah. Again, this has been the True Believers. First of all, thank you to Kevin, as always, for joining me along the Witch's Road. We know that he will have a safe and fun journey exploring Australia's Witch's Roads, but no giant spiders, Kevin. No giant spiders.
Yeah, no giant spiders, dude. You're not going to like them.
You guys know where I'm going, right?
Yeah, I know. That's why we're telling you this. This is why
they've got large spiders. They've got large spiders. They've got robber crabs. They've got drop bears. They got everything down there.
They got kangaroos, man. That's what you need to be afraid of. And Kat, we will be seeing you again because you're going to be joining me while Kevin is off on his international travels, covering the rest of Agatha All Along. Oh, well, somebody's got to try to keep me in line. I wish you luck on that.
I don't think I'm going to keep you in line. I think it's going to be a random act of violence and happiness throughout the next few episodes. And they may be longer than they should be.
I'm going to be curious about run times on a couple of these episodes myself. But of course,
3 hours. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like we get that lucky. But of course, too, this is the Fandom Podcast Network. If you've been listening to us on our audio podcast on fpnet.podbean.com or on any of those major podcast catchers out there, we thank you. Or maybe you're watching the video on our YouTube channel. If you are, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and share us out there. And of course, too, you can follow us all over the place on social media, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter. Kevin, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Spartan_Phoenix on all the socials, X, of course, Instagram, Discord, Letterbox, all that stuff there. And of course, you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network. Also in the True Believers Facebook group. If you're not part of that, please check that out. And I'm on Facebook too, so check that
out. Kat, where can people find you on social media?
Pretty much everywhere is Static Cat 1. I try to keep it as simple as I possibly can. And Kevin, you just said one thing I don't know you guys have. Do you guys have a Discord? A Fandom Podcast? You do?
No, we don't have. No. We have our personal accounts, but we don't have a Fandom Podcast Network Discord. But I am also on Discord at Spartan_Phoenix. Yeah.
Might be a suggestion.
You can find me. Yep. You can find me on Discord at AKyleW. And of course, guys, it's Agatha All Along. It's been fun. I can't wait for the final ride of this. Until next time, though, we're going to let the Tesseract rest. Kevin, are you still trying to figure out a way to get it through customs?
Oh, I'm leaving it here. I ain't taking that to Australia. Australia has its own demons.
Yeah. You don't want to. Don't cross the streams, Kevin. Just don't cross the streams. But again, thank you to Kevin. Thank you to Kat. Thank you to Agatha. Thank you to Rio and all the rest of our coven. And until next time, remember, Excelsior, true believers. And as always, make ours marvel.